All right, so I got the stream started minute early. Um, Typical opening disclaimer. If you're on TikTok here, I'm not looking at comments, so I'll get to comments afterwards at about 9 o'clock. I usually give TikTok about 10 minutes or so before I start the morning room. So let's talk about that. As you see here on the screen, we're gonna open up again with the events in case y'all missed this yesterday. Tomorrow's the big day. We got CPI, core CPI. As y'all see, it's supposed to come out as 3.1. Um, that's the second month that's coming out aggressive. Last month I thought it was pretty aggressive and it actually hit it. I was super surprised about that. This month it's just as aggressive. So what that means, typically is if it hits the 3.1 or if we get lower, um, it's going to be very bullish. It's going to be we're going to see some good movement up. We may see some good movement up today just because I talked about this yesterday, but people were surprised that it hit it last month, and so this month they're almost expecting it to hit it, right? And so people are going to start buying in that expectation that we're going to go up with that bullish move. Now, the interesting part is if we don't hit this and it comes somewhere in between, that will put us in an overprice, which will pull us down. If we don't hit this at all, and for some reason this comes out at let's say 4.1 or 4.0, you're gonna see a pretty nasty drop in the market. So big news tomorrow. We also have Thursday. We have the initial jobless claims PPI, which is gonna be big, and then we have the earning reports on Friday. So yeah, a couple days in a row of some good news or big news. Just a theory interesting. Um, with the bank's earnings reports and such coming out on Friday, we could see a bullish push from the CPI, kind of a level push from jobless claims and PPI, and then the bank earning reports, could come out not as good as expected, right? And then that's where the crash comes. Um, could be reversed, right? Because a lot of people are expecting the banks to possibly not be as good as what they're saying they are. And so, we could see a continued pullback through the CPI, and then maybe the banks come out, reporting better than what everybody thinks because there's already that doubt. So, if you're not in the room trading with us, we keep people up to date on guidance and all that. And even through the mass volatility of the news, our indicators do really, really well. So, if you don't have those, you definitely should. So let's talk about the SPY yesterday. I left some drawings on here. Let's kind of walk through how we traded it. So the market opened right about here on this explosive northern candle here. We did not take this call right away. However, our Harmonic Tracker Pro did have us in a long call here. So we talked about that in the morning. We did have this long call. I talked about finding support here, and so we might see a first kind of push north. I didn't take that. I didn't like taking it right off the bat for that particular one. I was kind of waiting for a short call. So let me show you this setup, which actually played out perfect, right? And this is what we talk about in our room is, wait for that kind of perfect setup, right? Where all the boxes check. So let's walk through the boxes. So I drew this yellow head and shoulder line here literally after we double topped here. It was like right there. And I wanted to kind of walk through what I seen on that, how I was able to draw that. And then it actually, if you look at it, was pretty close, almost all the way down to my bottom where I had, right? So, but let's talk kind of what we've seen. So we saw the push up, we saw the weakness kind of come through, right? We saw the fight. We didn't trade this, we kind of waited. I saw this pump north, but I also began to see the bearish divergence come through on the RSI. So that already showed me that this push north was weaker than what the candles had shown, the price action, right? So the moment we saw this double top, I had actually entered the double top a little bit early. The moment I got this momentum candle here, I jumped into it. So the moment I saw this short call, which was just such a great call from the indicator, let's look at all the facts that we had. We have kind of a shoulder looking, formation here. You got your double top, which acts kind of like a head. And then we had a gap fill, which called that perfectly, right? That we needed to fill this gap. We had the bearish divergence that you need to allow the momentum for that pattern to actually break out. And we had the short call. I mean, literally everything lined up with that. So this yellow line right here was a localized line that I said, if the shoulder cannot break this line, right, then that's likely another confirmation that that shoulder is going to be a little weak and break down. So, we ended up closing that one out. I actually got it somewhere around here, so I did not ride this additional wave down. But I always, we teach people in the room, draw your lines. Don't be afraid to take a risk, right? And once you get to a point of confidence where you can draw a head and shoulder back here and have it, I mean, look how close this was. Yeah, I didn't get the peak, right? I thought we might get back up to here. It didn't quite make that. It did follow down to here, found support right where I had marked it. And it actually came up a little bit higher than I thought, and then took a little bit longer than I thought, but it ended up playing out perfectly. So it was just, it was really fun to draw that and just kind of see that play out. So that was kind of our day. We mostly took the puts through here. I was done trading by noon. I didn't do much after that. I had to go attend some meetings. And then you look at the indicator here. Flip to that long. That long played out perfectly. I know many people play the the indicator play there, so they were able to capture that long. We talked about this white line. This white line's been very relevant in kind of a weird way because we break through it, but if it can't hold it, it tends to lose, right? And so now we're in the after hours, right? But even in the after hours, called a nice short, boom, called the long, right? So the indicator's absolutely destroyed, as far as calling that. Zooming out, I want to talk a little bit about what we had called before. So if you remember, we have this level here. I'm going to mute the harmonic one just so get a little bit noise off there. And then let's delete. Actually, I'm going to leave this head and shoulders so we can talk about that when we open the room. What we talked about is we had support here yesterday. We talked about support here. And we talked about if we can create a higher low here, right, then that's going to be seen as bullish and we'll come up and retest this, which is exactly what we did. Now, I always do the bullish and bearish scenarios. And our bearish scenario is that we could have came all the way down at 435. My thing was, if y'all remember, or you can go back and watch, is that I didn't think that we would quite make that because of the fact that we have a bullish expectation from the CPI tomorrow. So, to break a big support level like this, it's going to be difficult when the news is expected to be bullish, right? Now, the question is now where we are. So, how high can we go before it breaks back down? So what I'm going to look for, I drew this yellow line here. You can even take like this yellow line here and extend it, right? And you can see we have hits here, we have hits here, so it stays pretty viable, right? Acted as resistance here, broke above it, and now it acted as support, broke above it, right? So it's pretty viable. So if you're drawing kind of a bottom, you can take that plus these 2 points here, and that would be kind of your bottom of support. Now, what that means is if we break that level at any point today, that's where the fall is going to come, because not only is this kind of your bottom level, but on the 2 minute that I trade, you can see this is the 200 EMA, right? So if it breaks this level, it's breaking that 200 EMA, which is going to cause some more downside. Now, the one thing I wanted to point out, I was looking at in the after hours, is we have a peak, a peak, a peak, right? So we have higher highs right here. We're already seeing the bearish divergence, and we have continued bearish divergence. So we have 3 points of bearish divergence. Doesn't mean we can't go higher because it doesn't always play out right away. What it means is it might struggle a little bit, but my first point of rejection, I'm not going to just jump into a put right off the bat on the market open. With news, there's going to be so many fake outs with things. Unless the indicators line up, right? I mean, we do have a lot of bearish gap fill from that indicator, which is usually pretty accurate. For the gap fill one, I tend to like the 5 minute a little bit better, and it's almost a bearish gap fill, but not quite there. Um, we do have the bearish divergence though on the 5 minute as well. So I will definitely be watching that for the SPY. Now, what I would like to see in a bullish scenario, to be honest, is you have the 200 down here in my 2 minute. You have the 21. I would like to see this 21 SMA continue to hold support. Press another high, hold support. Press another high, hold support. Press another high. If it does that, it's likely to come all the way up here to about 441.59 before we see our pullback, where the divergence will play out. So if you want to know more, come hang out with us in the room. We usually trade for hour, a couple hours in the morning, together as a community, and then we talk about the market, answer any questions. If you're new, that's even the time that sometimes we teach you. We do kind of an education while we trade, actually, kind of thing. So but that's kind of my plan with the SPY today. I'll talk more about that in the room. So I already have Google up, so let's talk about Google. So Google's doing pretty much what we talked about. So we talked about the rounded top showing weakness. We talked about kind of this inverted cup and handle that was displaying, and you can see the handle kind of broke down, right? But it has not broke the neckline here. It's actually trying to fight it. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see. So right here is about 116.16 is where we'd want to break, right? If we break that, it's going to have a pretty nasty fall before it gains some support. So if I want to try to figure out, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot. It could find some quick support around 114 just because of this wick here. I mean, you could probably take, if you're trying to follow a bottom on Google, you could probably take something like this. I'd probably ignore this wick here because there's too many things that line up without it, and so this would be where I would be really careful taking calls. The only way that I would take a call on this one is if all my indicators lined up and it began to cross up and it flipped my SMA at least on the 1 hour. Because if you look at it, this line here, the orange one's my SMA, and it can't even break that. I mean, it's continued to fail, and you're getting a separation in that SMA and 200 EMA. So if you're looking to take a call, I wouldn't do it here because if this breaks, you're gonna get caught really bad and really fast. I would look to take a call somewhere around 112, 111. If we get down to there, maybe that 114, but that 114 is just gonna be a quick bounce probably, and then pull back. Now, if this continues to hold and it breaks back above the SMA, then we're likely to push back up to about the 119.84. So that's the range I play on Google. Let's talk about Apple. So Apple found support here, not surprising. We talked about 187 support because of the fact that you had previous resistance here. It's a pretty common trade in scalping. Is you look at the prior resistance. You can see it came down, held this support, and then we're breaking now above the SMA and the EMA. So could have some potential upside still left in Apple. What I would probably do if you're brave enough to trade Apple with the way it's been moving, I would just take this 2 peak here, right, and I'll leave it there. So we'll see how it plays out. And if it comes up through the bullishness today, hits this, finds some weakness, right, then that's going to just drive it back down. However, if we do break this is where your breakout area is going to be, and it will break it up to retest that all-time high. So just even that simple line is what I would draw. I would simply take this prior resistance level. I'd probably put a line around 187.26 or so, like that. We'll do this one yellow as well. And this is likely kind of the range that you can play, right? Play your calls, play your puts if you're scalping. So on the 1 hour, we are back above the 200 EMA, which if you look back, I mean, it's been like forever since it's crossed and held it. I mean, all the way down to 171, right? So the fact that it broke this was very bearish, but it's holding support enough to break it above again. So that what could have been super bearish fall all the way down to 183 is holding some early support. So you may actually see to get some momentum to break above this, I would like to see this actually pull back, as weird as that is, and create a higher low here for kind of a double bottom setup. Because if it breaks this neckline, it will hit this, reject, retest the neckline, and that's what would explode it. So that's the range I would play with Apple. Um, let's talk about Microsoft. I'm gonna try to get as many as I can. Guys, if you're on TikTok or YouTube, I will cover any of thing that you want to cover in the room once we open that. So if you want to join in with an email, you're welcome to do so. It doesn't cost anything. Come on in and I can do further. Aside from that, I just kind of touch on the ones that I get most requests from, and the ones that I watch, right? Because I trade mostly, if not only, the SPY. So let's talk about Microsoft. You have on the 1 hour, Microsoft is looking. It's better than Google with the way that it's climbing, right? But you can almost take just a quick glance here, and I don't really follow Microsoft a lot. But you can almost take just a line like that, right? So you got this peak. This is a very, very kind of vertical line right here. So it's pointing up more than I typically like for it to hold. These ones typically, when they break pretty quick. So the thing I would watch for this one is we're currently above that line. We're breaking above the SMA, which typically is going to bring us up to as high as 336 before you get that squeeze. If we can break above the 200 EMA, you'd be clear to take some pretty good call scalps. If we reject off of this, come back down, and you see a break below this line like it did here, and then you see it come up and reject off the line and break that neckline, that's where that put is going to be a really, really good put. You can see right where it bounces, not a difficult place to spot. You have prior support here, you got prior support in here, prior support even here that caused an explosion. So I'm not surprised that it was able to catch that. RSI is on the way up, our indicator's calling green. So potentially, my call on Microsoft would be, we have some potential upside for sure, and then but there's definitely some downside that will kick in at some point. I don't know that it has the strength to push all the way up. If you want to watch a ceiling, like if you're just scalping and you want to get a quick in and out, I would just take this 2 peak here, like so. It actually annoys me when my lines are like that, so I'm gonna bring this right down here. It was right around there, so that would be the range that I would if it stays in here, right, you can play calls through here, you can play puts through here. Any kind of explosion to get back up here would have to break this trend line here. So I don't really cover Amazon a lot. I think I even skipped it yesterday, so let's look at it. I'm gonna mute the harmonic one, just a little easier for y'all to see. So Amazon, let's go to the 1 hour. Amazon's actually looking weaker, I think, than Microsoft. A few things that stick out with me on Amazon is, one, on the 1 hour, we're below that 200. We do have a tighter squeeze, but if it breaks back below this SMA, we're gonna come back down and test 125 for sure. The thing I don't really like for being bullish here on Amazon is you have so many peaks of resistance, just so many. I mean, it could not break this like 131 level, and that's what drove this massive candle. People were like, okay, I'm done, I'm taking my puts, right? And so from a localized level, I probably would have drawn something like this, right? And so if you look at that, now we have peaks of support, and then you come into here, peak of support, right? Pumps up, it broke that, which was what created the momentum. But if you look at it, we're actually retesting it, which we all know when we break it and we retest it, if it fails that retest and comes back down for this neckline, it's likely to break it. So I would be extremely careful taking calls. The only way I would even take a call on Amazon would be is if it breaks this line here, holds as support, because then what's going to happen is you're likely to come up here and then retest this 131 area, so it could be a pretty good call. Otherwise, I'd probably stay put on Amazon for now. And there might be better plays, right? So the only one I'm going to cover over here is Tesla, because I know a lot of people ask for that one. let's see how my lines have been playing out. You can see here, this one played out pretty well. This was Monday. Um, yeah, this is yesterday right here. So what we talked about, yesterday we drew this line here. You can see it came up, couldn't even make it. Boom, collapsed right back down. Actually collapsed all the way down to 264. My call was that if you look at the 200, we have not tested it since 248. So this test was likely to get a pretty big bounce. So if you caught that call off of this bounce, awesome job. Doesn't surprise me that it's rejecting because remember, anytime you get in between the 200 and the 21 SMA on the 1 hour, it's going to create that squeeze. And that's what it's doing, right? You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 times it's tried to break above it, couldn't do it, and then that creates the volume down. It doesn't mean that we can't break it overall. It just needs to pull back for a little more support. So I would suspect it's probably going to pull back to at least 267 or so. We may even come all the way back to a retest of 265. I would not take a call on Tesla unless it breaks above this SMA around 270, 80, 270, 89, something like that. Probably 271 just to be clear, right? And you wanna see it have some strength as well. So, right now everything's just kind of go even on the RSI, you're creating the lower highs, right? So, not enough strength for me to take a call on Tesla. If anything, I will be more put in the beginning, but a call anywhere in here on 266 it would be just a fantastic scalp. As far as bearish momentum, you can see where it broke here. The break on here was 249 all the way to 239. That's like a $10 move. You'll get something similar if it breaks it again. It'll probably go from 265, all the way down to, these levels in here, probably maybe 259, I would say, something like this. And where I'm getting that, it may even bounce here at 264, right? Because remember, always what was resistance will always be tested as support. And that, this wick actually not only hitting the EMA, right, it also hit these prior resistance and it got tested as support. So, if it breaks that 264 marker, you want to kind of look at the lower levels of support and or resistance, which would be probably around 254, which would line up actually with that $10 drop that I had before. So that is kind of the range that I'd watch. As far as the breakout, just follow this localized downtrend line here. We may hit this bounce, hit this bounce, hit this bounce, right, and then break out like that. So if it's got that strength. If y'all remember when it was pumping up like this, everybody was excited. They're like, oh, look at Tesla. Should I take a call? Should I take a call? Anybody who takes a call when the RSI looks like this, you're going to lose. You might as well just take the money, put it in the bucket, and burn it, right? Because you're going to lose. That's what I talked about when this was all going down, is that don't take calls up here, guys. I mean, congrats to those that bought this, right? But if you're buying this, you're just FOMOing and you'll lose. You may win 9 out of 10 times, but that 10th time will take everything. So let's jump into the rest of this because we don't really have a ton of time left, but I don't have to go over the ATAs too much. So let's talk about the dollar. The dollar just, it's just doing its own thing, just kind of bleeding. We had a pretty big drop. I haven't talked about the dollar in a few because it really wasn't doing a ton, but you can see beginning on Friday the 7th, it began to break. It had its fall 1, it had its fall 2, and then it did have some support at 101. If we go to the 1 hour, let's take a look at those support lines. So just a quick glance, it's not shocking about that, right? Because you can look here, and I mean, it doesn't take a strong TA analysis to see that we're likely to get some kind of bounce from there. So keep in mind, if the news supports the dollar being bullish, it will bounce heavily off of this because this is a support line. If the news does come out to where the dollar is bearish, right, then the break of this should be pretty fast, almost probably, I'd say within an hour, if not sooner, right, down to 100, which will be very bullish in the markets. So we'll keep an eye on that, Dixie. Let's talk about Bitcoin. I have everything muted here. Don't want to draw that. Let's unmute some of these and take a look. So Bitcoin is doing pretty much exactly what we've been talking about for the last, I don't know, week or so. You had your big move up, hit off of 31K, had a rejection. We talked about a possible high of 31.4 still. It didn't make it, right? It couldn't make it, so it rejected reclaim. It literally lost everything that it gained in the same day. Since then, we're just trading sideways. Again, it continues to hold, which is good because if you look at, um, just like we did with the other ones, right? If you take some localized, kind of trend lines, right? If you take the lower like that, if you pull it up, right, and we skip this one wick right here, it actually lines up more peaks. One, two, so you have three peaks right here, and we're so far holding that. So this would be the squeeze that I would watch for Bitcoin. Right now we had our fall and we're just kind of trading sideways, right? So we're just in that kind of accumulation mode. This is the squeeze I'd watch. If we break that 30,350 range below this, then we're likely to see a pull down all the way to 30,100. We could see all the way back down to 31, right? Or to 30,000, I meant. But it is, holding strong support here, right? And so that strong support right there, if it breaks above this 200 EMA, can cause a pretty pretty big explosion north. And again, the news is supposed to be bullish, right? So, um, I would be really careful taking any shorts as long as you're above this line here. I would not take any shorts so close to it. I would not take really any longs until I have confirmation that I've crossed this 200 on my 2 minute. So on the 1 hour, let's look at the EMAs briefly, and then we'll jump to ETH. So on the 1 hour, we actually have our golden cross, the 21 cross the 200 there. But we're in a squeeze, right? So 30,488 or so is the high. 30,362 is where it's just bouncing, right? So keep an eye on that range. If we break below this, we're likely to see further downside. If we break above this, we're likely to see further upside. So that's how I would play that range. Ethereum does not surprise me either because remember we rejected here at 1905 and we have continuously talked about what was support acts as resistance. We've continuously talked about the fact that the 1900 to 1920 range is really, really big resistance. It just always has been for ETH. It's kind of a mind thing, I think, at this point. And you can see it's just, it continues to do it all through here. We had a breakout, created a bearish pattern that broke. As far as the high for ETH, I would say if we do break above that 1900 range, then it can hold it. I would for sure see a retest coming up here around 1950. As high as 1969 would be a great put. I mix my options in crypto short to take. And this is the line to break, right? If we hit this, right, it's gonna go pretty parabolic in a bullish way. And the news could push that right tomorrow. So, but keep in mind we are still kind of hanging on to a cliff here. It's kind of ugly looking, right? But you go to a daily or something like that, you kind of do have a shoulder head. Shoulder kind of pattern forming. So if it does by chance break this neckline around 1820 or so, right, I still have my low that we have not touched since back here. This is June 15th, right, when we actually touched that low. So I still have a breakdown, which would, if you think about it, that head and shoulder reclaims this side typically. And so if you have a reclaim of that side somewhere over here in the next, few days or week or so, that would put it right on the trend line. So if I would, anything up here I'm staying short, anything down here I'm staying long. That's my game plan. So hope that helps. I only have a few minutes. The ATA yesterday had a great day. This is what the trades that it did. It took a call, played out nicely, took a short, played out nicely, or a put, played out nicely, took another call, played out nicely. So it took a put here, just missed the take profit line, and it took a call here, which just missed the take profit line. So not terrible calls by the ATA. So we are in a put and in a call. If you look at the pre-market, we are way up. So this is actually going to play out really nicely because the call that we're in should be in massive profit right now. That should just be like a Goliath should be like, probably $2,000 profit. On that one, and we do have a DCA protocol, right? So it's going to DCA that put, pulling your entry up a little bit, and so when we do actually hit our resistance and we return back down, that one's going to be a really big win. So Yeah, well, we're gonna let this play out. We'll see how it does getting out of that. So, but we know at least one of them is a really big win, and we'll see how the DCA protocol kicks in to get the other one out as well. So, but other than that, not a lot to cover. That's why I spent a little more time on the stock side of it. Here's the settings, that I have. If you're watching the recording later, you can just pause to read that. Um, a little announcement on that. Well, let's get this done. So that's the call. This is the put. If you wanted to pause to read, there it is. Also announcement. We worked hard last night. I was up pretty late working with our developer, and we were able to finalize the user side of it. So currently for options, we were only doing copy trade. So those that have been copy trading, if you're looking to do this and you understand options and you understand these settings and you think you're comfortable with it, we will have that out probably as soon as maybe as soon as this afternoon, for sure by end of market. We'll have those indicators all set up and released for you, so that way you can start doing your own thing if you wanted to do that, right? So that is going to be an option. We'll have that done today. So super exciting for that. But yeah, the technology is awesome. The next one we're going to be pushing is the Live Trader. The Live Trader is going to be. I'm excited about Live Trader. I love the ATA as well, right? The ATA is great because it's going to just trade for you. It's going to make the decisions. You don't have to stress about nothing. But the Live Trader is amazing for me because if you know even slightly about TA, just trading support and resistance, you can set those ranges, go to work, right? And that's what I do is I'm gonna set my ranges and just go work my projects, right? And it's gonna be sick. So for many of you who are watching this on TikTok or YouTube, if y'all have been getting beat up on crypto, between exchanges and the hard thing about crypto is that you got exchanges going down, you got getting your money on and off, and it's easily said to say, hey, move your money here, move your money there, move your money to your wallet, move. I mean, anybody who's been in crypto for any length of time, if you're moving 20, 30,000, 40, $50,000, I mean, it's not cheap to move this money. I mean, every time you move it, it's like, probably $1,000 or more gone, right? So, the crypto space just gouges you. So we've made this pivot to options where, on Tasty Trade, one contract, the fee's $1. you know, the most that they charge you in fees is $10. I mean, you can take 50 contracts, charges you $10. I mean, you do that kind of equivalent value trade in crypto. I mean, that's like $150 fee at least. And so the fees are just way better. It doesn't cost you anything to move your money in, doesn't cost you anything to move your money out. They're linked up to the bank. Whenever I pay myself, I withdraw my money. It comes right to my account literally the next day. And so I don't have to worry about costing me fees every time I move this thing around. So options is just, it's such a more forgiving and just it's such a better space. We're actually going to be working to build also to be able to trade futures and forex on Tasty Trade, but for now we're just going to kind of tighten it in on options. Options it's a difficult one to automate, and there's not a lot of people. Actually, I don't know anybody out there that's doing options automation. So if you love options, you're interested. It's a great alternative for trading for those who can't trade leverage on crypto anymore, because crypto, as all you know, if you're in the US, you're kind of hosed, right? You got booted off of most every leverage exchange. And if you're trying to find those extra ones out there, right, you're still playing with fire because the SEC says no. So, and they're going to catch you eventually, and it's going to cost you money moving your money off. With options, right, you're not really trading that leverage, right? You're trading contracts, and so as long as you abide by the cash accounts or the margin account requirements, which we do teach, then it's really a great alternative for people to make a lot of money in a short time. I know somebody who was running Ultron yesterday said they made about $27. It's a $1,000 account. So you think about it, 2.7% return in one day on that. So I mean, that's the power of options. So I think options to me, I've made more money on options than I have on crypto. So it's pretty amazing. So super exciting. But I'm 3 minutes past. I'm going to cut this off. I'll see y'all in the room, in the community. If you're watching and you're interested in joining, check us out at botjock.com. TikTok, sit tight. I will take a look at questions here shortly. But appreciate your guys' time. We'll see you soon.